Every morning you probably grab a plastic toothbrush, squeeze soap from a plastic bottle, scrub with a synthetic sponge, and eat breakfast from a plastic bowl. None of those objects existed 100 years ago. Before plastic arrived, people cleaned their teeth, washed their bodies, and stored their food just as effectively, using materials that came directly from the earth. Today, we're going to look at 4 of those materials, what they were, how they worked, and what exactly we replaced them with. Here's a number that puts everything in perspective. Plastic has been a mass consumer material for about 70 years. The plastic toothbrush was invented in 1938, the plastic bottle as we know it. The late 1960s, the single-use plastic bag, 1965. Before that, the entire world ran on natural materials. In 1950, the world produced 2 million tons of plastic per year. Today, over 400 million tons. That's a 200-fold increase in 70 years. The transition happened so fast that most people never stopped to ask what was being replaced or whether the replacement was actually better. Let's ask that question now. Let's start with something you used this morning, a toothbrush. The plastic toothbrush was invented in 1938 by Dr. West's company using nylon bristles. Before that, toothbrushes existed, but with bone handles and boar hair bristles. And before toothbrushes as a concept existed at all, the miswak. Miswak is a stick cut from the Salvadora persica tree, also called the toothbrush tree. It grows wild across the Middle East, East Africa, and South Asia. To use it, you peel a small section of bark at one end, chew the tip until the fibers soften and separate, and brush your teeth with those fibers. What's actually inside the wood? This isn't folk remedy guesswork. Miswak has been studied extensively. The wood naturally contains salvadorine and trimethylamine, antibacterial compounds that inhibit plaque-forming bacteria, natural fluoride, the same mineral added artificially to modern toothpaste, silica, a mild abrasive that removes surface stains, tannins, astringent compounds that reduce bleeding gums and tighten gum tissue, calcium and phosphate, minerals that support enamel remineralization. The World Health Organization has officially recommended Miswak as an effective tool for oral hygiene. Multiple peer-reviewed studies found it equal to or better than conventional toothbrushing for reducing plaque and gingivitis. Now here's the comparison that matters. A plastic toothbrush should be replaced every 3 months. That's 4 per person per year. They're too small and mixed material to recycle. Most go to landfill, where they take up to 400 years to decompose. A miswak stick lasts about a week of regular use. When it's done, you discard it. It decomposes within weeks. Nothing remains. The plastic toothbrush is 86 years old. The miswak is over 7,000 years old. One of them has a waste problem. The other doesn't. If you look at the right side of our thumbnail image, you'll see a bowl of dried brown shells. Those are soap nuts, also called Ratha or Sapindus mucorosi, and they're one of the oldest cleaning agents in human history. Soap nuts, nature's surfactant. The shell of the soap nut fruit is packed with saponines, naturally occurring compounds that behave exactly like synthetic surfactants. A surfactant is what makes soap work. It's a molecule with one end attracted to water and the other to oil, allowing them to mix so that grease lifts off the surface you're cleaning. Synthetic detergents are built in laboratories using petroleum-derived chemicals to do exactly what saponins do naturally. To use soap nuts for laundry, put 5 or 6 shells in a small cloth bag, drop it in with your clothes. Warm water releases the saponins. They clean. The bag can be reused for 4 to 6 wash cycles. Then the spent shells go into compost. They fully biodegrade and actually enrich the soil. Fact, history. Soap nuts have been used in India and Nepal for at least 2,000 years for laundry, hair washing, and skincare. They're referenced in ancient Ayurvedic texts and were traded along the Silk Road into Central Asia and the Middle East. Clay, the cleanser before soap, even older than soap nuts is clay. Specifically, certain types of clay have been used as cleansers for thousands of years, and the science behind why they work is fascinating. Negatively charged clay particles are naturally attracted to positively charged dirt, oil, and toxin molecules on the skin's surface. When clay is applied wet to skin or hair and then rinsed, it physically binds to and pulls away impurities. Rasoul clay, mined from the Atlas Mountains of Morocco, has been used as a body and hair cleanser for over 1,400 years. Fuller's earth clay was used across ancient Rome, India, and Persia. Choline, the mildest of the clays, appears in ancient Egyptian cosmetic records. Here's one that surprises almost everyone. Loofah is not a sea creature. It is not related to sea sponges. Loofah is a plant. Specifically, loofah, or lofa, is the dried fibrous interior of a tropical gourd, Loofah aegyptiaca, a relative of the cucumber and zucchini. You grow the gourd, let it fully mature on the vine, peel off the outer skin, dry the inner fiber network, and you have a perfect exfoliating scrubber. The fibrous structure is naturally rigid enough to exfoliate dead skin, but flexible enough to be gentle. It holds soap well, it rinses clean, it dries quickly. Where loofah has been used, loofah cultivation for bathing purposes goes back over 1,000 years in Egypt, China, and Japan. It spread through trade routes across Asia and the Arab world. In many countries, it was simply part of the standard bathing routine, grown in the garden, dried, and used until it wore out. Now, the pink mesh ball, that's made from nylon, a synthetic plastic fiber derived from petroleum. It was introduced in the 1980s as a cheaper alternative to natural loofah, softer, more consistent in texture, easy to mass produce. But it came with a problem nobody was talking about until recently. A 2022 study found that a single synthetic bath sponge can shed up to 94 million microplastic fibers over its lifetime of use. These fibers are too small to be filtered by standard water treatment systems. They pass through, enter rivers and oceans, are consumed by marine life, and work their way up the food chain, including onto your plate. Microplastics have now been found in human blood, lungs, placenta, and breast milk. The full health implications are still being studied, but the direction of the research is not reassuring. Natural loofah, when it reaches the end of its life, goes into a compost bin. Within weeks, it's gone. It leaves nothing behind in the water, in the soil, or in the body. The last item takes us away from hygiene and into the kitchen. The coconut shell in our image isn't decoration. For most of human history, and still today in large parts of South and Southeast Asia, the Pacific Islands, and parts of Africa, the coconut shell was a primary everyday container. What a coconut shell actually is. A mature coconut shell is the hardened endocarp of the coconut fruit. Its structure is dense, fibrous, and extremely hard, comparable in hardness to many types of wood. The inner surface has a naturally smooth, slightly waxy finish that resists water absorption. When cut in half, it forms a perfect bowl. When carved and shaped, it becomes a cup, a ladle, a spoon. A well-made coconut shell bowl, kept dry between uses, can last 10 to 30 years. A standard plastic food container is typically replaced within 3 to 5 years. After disposal, it persists in the environment for up to 500 years. Beyond coconut shells, the broader picture of pre-plastic containers includes clay pottery, fired ceramic, hand-carved wood, gourd vessels, woven baskets lined with pine pitch, and hammered metal. Every culture on Earth developed its own container technology, and every one of those technologies produced materials that returned naturally to the Earth. The chemical concern. There's a dimension to plastic containers that goes beyond waste. Many plastics, particularly older PET and polycarbonate, leach chemical compounds into food and drink, especially when heated, scratched, or aged. BPA was the most studied of these, and it was eventually removed from most consumer plastics after research linked it to hormonal disruption. But BPA was replaced with structurally similar compounds, BPS and BPF, whose safety profiles are still being investigated. A 2023 study published in Nature Food found microplastic particles in every category of food tested, including fresh vegetables, bottled water, and seafood. The average person is estimated to ingest approximately 5 grams of plastic per week, the equivalent of a credit card. A coconut shell doesn't leach anything. A clay bowl doesn't shed microplastics. A wooden vessel treated with food-safe oil contains no synthetic chemicals. We replaced containers that had been refined over thousands of years with a material whose long-term effects on human health we still don't fully understand. If this made you think, subscribe. and drop a comment telling me which of these 4 surprised you the most. I read everyone.